What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment, IG, TikTok bottom of the video. It was gonna hop right into it. So today we'll be doing another how do we fix video. So because of their devastating loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday in Game 7, we will be discussing the Detroit Pistons today. With Detroit, their issue is actually something I've been, harping on since the beginning, like not the beginning of the season, but the middle of the season around the trade deadline. I always knew this was a problem with their roster construction, and it really showed yesterday once Cade struggled. And my first issue would be they need better offensive personnel / just being less reliant on Cade offensively. And I'm not gonna lie, with this team, the three issues were a little bit harder to come up with, because I do think this is a well-built team. I don't think they have as many holes as some people are saying. I think this offensive personnel is like the biggest hole and problem they've had all season. I was actually surprised, and I'm going to talk about them. These two players they didn't get at the deadline. But who would be a perfect fit? They need somebody who can take the ball out of Cade's hands at times and play off of Cade. And I always thought the perfect fit for them would be Zach LaVine. That's obtainable. Some people are saying D-Book makes way too much money and he probably doesn't want to leave Arizona. But Zach LaVine, obviously we know what Zach LaVine can do offensively. Another issue with Zach LaVine, I talked about this in the Nuggets video, hasn't really ever played meaningful basketball. I mean, literally, if he was on the Pistons yesterday, that would have been the biggest game he's ever played in his life. A second round game 7. He hasn't played meaningful basketball, but I mean, obviously, defensively, he's not going to give you much, but I think they have the pieces around him to, make up for that, and so that wouldn't be a real issue. Like I do say, usually you want one of your backcourt members to be able to guard. Obviously, K can guard, so finding him a backcourt member is a little easier than a couple other players. But I think that what Zach LaVine brings offense to the table would improve the Detroit Pistons a lot and make it easier on Cade. Cade has had games with a lot of turnovers, but I think some of that is just fatigue and so much being on him. But luckily, they should be able to fix that. Another player, less of a perfect fit because he does a lot of catch and shoot, but when he lets it goes in, and that's Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, we've seen Michael Porter Jr. on the Brooklyn Nets. I think he averaged 20-60 season, but he's more of a catch and shoot player. Obviously, he can do a little more, but he doesn't have as much creation skills as a Zach LaVine, and I think they are looking for somebody who can create a little bit more. But as far as offense and scoring the basketball, we know what he can do. Not the greatest defender, but I already said, bro, their defensive personnel can cover up for it. And as well as we know he has played at least meaningful basketball. He's won the championship, even though he was like the third option. We understand that, but we know at least he has played some form of meaningful basketball. As far as offensive personnel, I did have a couple. Them are like realistic options. I had a couple high-end fairy tales. The high-end fairy tales would be KD, Ja Morant, and Kyrie Irving. I would more prefer them to get a bigger guard. I mean, they don't really need one because Cade is, pretty big. Sear is gonna be probably still starting. We don't know. They probably bring Tobias Harris back because he did perform well in a lot of time during the playoffs, and Jalen Duren. So they could, a small guard wouldn't hurt them, but obviously we know what all three of those players bring to the table offensively. Hopefully Ja can come back full health and probably be on a different team somehow, some way. I wouldn't be surprised, but we all know what they offer offensively. I don't think I have to speak too much into that, but we see how they will help, Cade and the Pistons offensively. Now, the next issue I had, this was kind of hard to pick out, but I think they need more versatility and size. I think looking watching this team yesterday, I don't think they have a lot of lineups that can, they don't have a lot of versatility within their different lineups that they run. I said size because one of the problems is they're starting Tobias Harris at the 4. They're obviously with the team they played yesterday, they run 2 big men, 7-footers. So Tobias has a guard, 107 he's guard Mobley, and that size difference yesterday, you could see it was blatant, obvious that he couldn't do nothing with him. Mobley just has to be more aggressive. So, and they're playing. They got a couple teams in the East who can run 2 bigs if they want to. The Magic, they played the Magic first round, even though they end up beating the Magic. The Magic have great size. Basically great positional size through their whole lineup, especially if they decide to go with Anthony Black instead of Jalen Suggs next season. I mean, I think Anthony Black would be what the shortest dude in their lineup, but he's 6'7", so that's a thing. And then Tobias will have to guard somebody like Paolo or Franz, who's gonna still have a height advantage over him. The Knicks, they don't usually do it anymore, but at some point they were starting Cat and Mitchell Robinson. We don't know if Mitchell Robinson will still be on the Knicks next season because he is a free agent this offseason. But there are multiple teams out east that, can play two bigs. So I think, that would be something they might want to look into. A couple of these players, I was thinking about a player I've said on other teams, for the Nuggets specifically, John Collins. Obviously, John Collins is, athletic, rangy. He can he's a all right shooter. He's become an all right shooter. Only issue with that is he a good enough shooter to play besides Duran and Assur? That's a question. That's a question. But as far as versatility and size, I think he fits that. One player who from the team they just played yesterday is Dean Wade. Dean Wade's a little bit bigger than Tobias Harris. He's not going to. He's all right. He's a cool, he's a versatile defender, but he ain't locked down. He's not going to give you as much offensively as Tobias, but he'll give you more defensively. So, and he's a little bigger. So that was my thinking there. And one, just because he's from Michigan, Draymond. Obviously, we know what's going on with Draymond, and he just had them comments about Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr gets extended for 2 more years, so that's going to be a funny situation if they do end up keeping Draymond. But Draymond has a player option, so it's really up to Draymond if he wants to go back to Golden State or choose a different team next season. But we know what Draymond does defensively. Only thing is Draymond can't shoot a bit, and they whole front court at this moment in time can't really shoot if Draymond starts. So that's the issue. So I that's a more of that's an iffy one. And the last one, they just got to get older, more experience. Obviously, Cade is I think me and Cade the same age. So he like 23, 24. He just got to get more experience. I don't think a lot of people think about it, but you don't win in basketball until you lose. Most players have had heartbreaks first before they ever, reach that, promised land. And, this is just probably part of the heartbreak. Also, great players don't really win until they're about their championships to 27. So he still got a couple more years on that, especially with the rest of the time on the team. Obviously, Duran is young. I think he 22. Sur is young. They have a couple end of the bench guys. They wasn't playing much, but they probably, they continue to develop. They'll get more playing time. That's Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser. Yeah, it don't, yeah. So they just need more experience. I mean, if Assur comes back and he's become, I'm not expecting a big jump, but he becomes an adequate jump shooter, that's going to help them a bunch. If Assur can consistently knock down a jumper at a own rate, it's going to help them a lot, especially what he brings defensively to the team. I mean, he was third in defensive player of the year from the wing. That's absurd. So, like I said, bro, they just gotta get older, bro, and offense personnel getting older. I think them the versatile size thing that definitely could help, but I think the offense personnel getting older is really gonna help them most. And that's really all I gotta say. Though, so like, share, subscribe, comment. I do TikTok on the video, and we out.